The things they carried 2.2, um, step 1, video on literary aspects in the things they carried. Our learning objective is students will be able to analyze narrator voice, characters, and setting in the things they carried, pages 1 to 58. So let's get lit here, guys. What literary aspects does O'Brien use that I can write about is the question that you should have in your mind as we go through this video. The first one is changing and misleading narrators. Narrative point of view is the perspective from which the events in the story are observed and recounted. The narrator is the storyteller. Fiction writers consider angles like photographers do. They select a vantage point where the narrator can sit and watch their stories unfold. The place where a narrator watches, listens, and records is the point of view. Choosing one place over another determines what can and can't be seen and whose minds can and can't be entered. So let's talk about the different aspects here. The first one is the pronoun point of view. This is the one that you probably have heard about the most, that you have used the most in English classes, right? There are three basic pronoun points of view: first person, second person, which is rarely used, and third person. So the questions you want to be asking yourself if you choose this literary aspect to trace in the book are, why did the author choose this kind of storyteller? What is the effect? And what's interesting about the narrator in the things they carried is that it changes. So sometimes this narrator is a first person, using I or we. And an example of that you've read is Luang Ang's First They Killed My Father. Even, the my is used in the title. That book is written in a first person point of view. The third person point of view is also used in the things they carried. So both first and third are used. And so in this point of view, you're mostly seeing the he, she, or it. They have an example here of Leo Tolstoy's novel Anna Karenina. If you guys read Virginia Woolf's Orlando, that is also written in third person. Second person, just not used very often. Now, when you talk about the next thing that's important to consider is excuse me, what type of third person point of view is used. The third person point of view has some aspects that are important. First of all, some third persons are omniscient, meaning they are all knowing. They can get inside of any character's head at any time, past, present, future. And then there's the limited third person point of view. And this is not all knowing. It is limited really to just probably a couple of characters, sometimes just one character. And that's the kind of third person narrator that we have in the things they carried. It is a limited third person. And there are, I think, 3 chapters that use this limited third person. Most chapters are in the first person. So watch for when it switches and see which characters it is limited to. And think about, why this might be. What is the effect of changing narrator and keeping it limited to particular characters? That is going to be the key in our analysis. Okay, things carried motif is the next type of literary aspect or authorial choice. A motif is an object or idea that repeats itself throughout a literary work. And it usually has some kind of figurative significance, but it's a little bit broader of a term than symbol. And actually, now that you are in this more sort of advanced literary analysis, you'll find yourself using the word symbol, symbolism, symbolizes less and less. Because the truth is, most literature uses sort of this nuanced way of representing a larger idea that is the motif. Okay. In a literary work, a motif can be seen as an image, a sound, an action, or other figures. It has a symbolic significance, but it's not quite as simple as a symbol. A symbol typically is something that comes up maybe once or twice in a book. Motif is recurring and is used in different ways, varying ways. Motif and theme are linked, but there is a difference between them. In a literary piece, a motif is a recurring image, idea, or symbol that develops or explains a theme, while a theme is the central idea, that rich message. The things carried motif is just what it sounds like, objects that are carried. And it's right in the title of the book. It's also in the title of the first chapter, which is the same as the book's title. And you will see this motif over and over and over and over again in that first chapter. It's quite explicit. It's like, these are all the things that they carried. And and the narrator is talking specifically about the soldiers and what they carried when they went into the jungle. Because most of the time that soldiers in the Vietnam War are sort of on duty, they are actually in the jungle fighting guerrilla warfare. And so it's a very different kind of warfare experience than what was in World War II. And so most of the time they have to carry everything they bring with them, and different soldiers are responsible for carrying different things. And then they also have some choice about what they carry, right? They have personal effects they carry. And then the narrator will go beyond just the physical things that are carried and talk about the emotional baggage too that is also carried. So it's both literal and figurative. And watch for some interesting examples of this, or lines where the narrator talks about this baggage. Fragmented and non-chronological structure is our next one. And for this one, we're looking at the fact that the different chapters are structured differently. This is the plot, really, the narrative structure. So the movement of the events and how they are told, how they are conveyed. And what we'll find in this book is that the stories are broken up. Some stories are referenced in almost every chapter. Certain events that took place in the book are referenced over and over again. Some events are isolated to just one particular chapter. And so that is something interesting to look for as well. I think this is a great thing to trace. It works really well for a higher level essay. Non-chronological is another aspect about this narrative structure. It's not in time order always. Sometimes things happen out of order. So watch for the timeline, what is happening in order, what is happening out of order, how are the chapters broken up, which chapters are interrelated, they connect to other chapters, and how so structurally, and then which chapters are isolated or mostly isolated. And then, of course, we're going to think about the effects of these choices. Why did O'Brien choose to do this? What are the effects on us as the audience, or as the reader, excuse me? We've moved from drama to novel analysis. So now we are the reader. And a connection to a larger meaning. Okay, war story.